That's all right then. You've probably got the one bit that doesn't leak.
Yeah. So do you cruise then?
I try to, yeah. Like, obviously during lockdown, didn't. Stayed here for a year, which was really weird for me because normally I'd stay somewhere about 3 days. And then
really?
Get itchy feet. Yeah, I don't really like staying. But here's easy to stay. In fact, it's too easy to stay.
Yeah.
It's very inviting.
It's perfect mix, isn't it? You're not in society.
Yeah. And I'm not on the towpath either, so.
No, I can see the appeal.
I have to like shoehorn myself out and think, get out, go now.
Cut your own.
Yeah, just go.
I've got to go.
I like cruised and worked full time for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was fine, but I was working in Birmingham, so I had a really lovely like 250 mile sort of thing around Birmingham. Yeah. So I'd come the furthest south I went was Stratford, and then furthest north was sort of Staffordshire, and it was great. It was so varied. And I just like went somewhere, went and picked my car up. I just walked though, and then came back, and I'd just move all the time like that.
Yeah.
My car. Don't want to talk about that on film, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
It's usually about 10 minutes when you meet a boater that.
Oh my god!
You start talking about
in fact, 10 minutes is pretty like we've done well, haven't we? It's been like half an hour.
We've held out there.
Yeah.
Straight away, innit?
So how long have you been on yours then?
On this one about, I think 8 years.
Right.
But I've had terrible things happen with it.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've sank at Wigan Locks.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What, in the lock or?
Just before the lock. Yeah. Then my engine blew up at the top of Targe Big Locks. There's a theme here.
Try and avoid locks.
No, exactly. And so I've been through, me and that boat have been through so much together.
Oh wow.
Yeah. My aunt said, if I win the lottery, I'm going to buy you a new boat. I was like, no, I don't want another boat because I know this boat so well.
Got used to
Yeah.
Yeah. So, everything,
wow.
the bad things that could happen have sort of happened now.
You've experienced.
No more.
So how did it sink?
Just had a hole in it. Lots of them.
Like a sieve.
Yeah, it literally was. They took it out of the water. But the funny thing was, it's not funny at all, but the funny thing was that the engine wasn't, when I bought it, it was just this cheap, really cheap boat, and I didn't even have an excuse because it's not like my first boat, but it was really cheap, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to do it up, and it would all be fine. So that was my plan. So I thought the first thing that's going to go is the engine, because the engine didn't work at that time. I got the engine going, but it just kept overheating all the time. So everywhere I went, it just overheated. So you'd have to wait for a few hours, put loads more water in it. It was just crazy. It was a JCB engine with a motorbike carburettor. So it's never going to end well, is it? So, but I thought I bought it up in Chorley, and I thought I'll get it down here. That was my plan. So it kept bloody overheating all the time. So managed to get from Chorley to Wigan, and but just took ages. Anyway, so it started sinking basically. So I rang up RCR, who I was a member of, because I was that sensible. I thought, let's get RCR involved. Yeah. And they went, okay, like, how bad is it? I said, well, like, the engine's totally submerged, and like the water was above the floorboard. She went, yeah, that's bad. So she said, can you drive it? And I went, possibly, yeah. So she says, if you can get 11 miles back to the other side of Chorley, there's a really good welders there, like they're the best welders in the north. And I was like, great, I don't have to go through any locks or anything, so I'll do it. So I was like, started out about 7 o'clock in the morning, and just started powering there and bailing out the whole time. I didn't even have a bilge pump fitted, so I had to fit the bilge pump and like just keep bilging it out all the time. And anyway, the whole way there, my engine never ever gave out. How mad is that? And it's because it was so submerged in water. It was so cool.
It's like, yay.
Water cooled.
It was totally water cool. So I got there, and it took me. I must have started out probably 7, half 7, and they were waiting for me. Got to about 7 at night, and it took me that long because it was just like bailing out all the time. And got there, and they'd all gone home. So I rang them up and I was like, I'm thinking, can you, like, where are you? And they're like, oh, we've gone home. And they, do you reckon that you could wait till the morning? I went, no! So bless them, they all come out from their various, like, homes and pulled me out of the water, thank God. And they went round my boat with this little hammer, this little pickaxe. And honestly, by the time they finished, it looked like a colander. It was just, like, yeah. So the engine had to wait, and the first job became a V bottle.
Let's make you watertight.
Yeah. So I ended up being in Chorley for 9 months because I wasn't on a queue. You know, they had loads of work in, so I just had to wait. So that was an experience. So I always forget how long I've had it because it feels like I didn't have it for almost a year. Because it was just up on beer barrels in Chorley. I didn't have any electric or anything, so it was just
Oh wow.
So that was the first thing.
So is this the same boat?
Yeah, same boat. She's fine now.
Re-welded bottom.
It's fine now. I've just had a black because I have a black every 2 years because I'm so paranoid now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, I had
It's
a
like
survey
my
done
biggest
a couple of
worry,
years ago.
that is, thinking.
Yeah, and he hadn't moved it for 8 years that he'd had it, and it was already like 40 years old. So it's 1979. So and he'd probably bought it when it was in its 30s. So it was already sort of on its way out. He'd done nothing to it at all.
Wow.
So yeah. So it was had to happen really, but I was stupid and thought, oh, I'll get it. I knew it would need replating at some point, but I thought it was the engine was the main problem. But no, it wasn't.
Better ideas.
Yeah.
No, no.
So what's she called?
She's called Fern.
Fern.
Yeah, hence Fern floating
Fern
fine
floating
out.
fine.
But everybody thinks that I'm Fern, you see.
I did
So
for quite
yeah,
some time.
I answer to it anyway. So it's just easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? So they always like, but she always does it. I mean, she's quite good at doing it before they do anything scary, like a whole flight of locks. I mean, it's quite considerate, really.
Yeah,
she
very
waits
thoughtful.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
She
Very
might like the
thoughtful.
spots that she wants to collapse
That's
in.
it, yeah.
So
Like when
I'm
the
gonna go
engine
here.
went, that was, well, the engine actually went in Tardy Big Tunnel. So that was a
Oh
bit
no.
thinking, but yeah. And then, but actually I managed to get it started again to get out of the tunnel, but then she went just after the first lock, so I thought, well, that's considerate, because I had another 35 to go. And the boatyard was at the top of the locks that I got fixed at, so I appreciate that sort of kindness.
Yeah.
So what was the first boat you had then?
I had a little tiny Springer called Pug that was only 23 foot.
Oh,
That I
wow.
loved.
Live on that
I
as
did
well.
live on that with 2 kids as well. I don't know how I did it.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Wowzers.
I know. But my kids hate boats now. They never want to live on a boat ever again.
So how old are your children?
They're 27 and 24 now. And I really hope that they might want to do it, but no.
You don't look old enough.
Yeah, I am.
You don't.
But yeah, so my son was really into boats when he was a kid. He drove over the
loved it.
Ponte Casulfi at about the age of 8.
Oh wow.
You know, I thought he was going to be a right boat boy, but yeah.
No.
But no.
Childhood on one.
Yeah.
So what made you first get on a boat then?
Well, I think I'd always liked the idea of travelling, always. Spent hours and hours and hours on a like route master bus.
Oh wow.
I loved those bloody buses, and I just spent 8-hour shifts on them, literally. And I just used that time to like redesign it, you know, to like in
Yeah,
my head.
yeah.
And I always thought, right, I'm gonna get a bus when I'm older, and I'm gonna live on a bus and become, you know, sort of traveller. Anyway, I couldn't drive, so that was like the downside of that idea. and then my mum and my stepdad, they bought a boat, and they said they just wanted me to go and help them out now and again, you know. And I just fell in love with it, and I just fell in love with the people that were on the canal, and it just seemed like a totally different world. That you could be in a city, and then you go into the canal, and it's just different, isn't it? Like I think that's overworld now. It's like it's like a different land. But,
Yeah, it is.
and I love that, and I love feeling that I'm part of this culture.
Yeah.
You know, this working, travelling culture. I love that, and that's why I think I became a trader. Not just because I'm an artist, but I love the idea of being in that community.
Yeah.
I think that's so like beautiful, really.
Magical.
Yeah, and it's such a close community, isn't it? And everybody does help each other out, and Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it is lovely.
So, yeah.
Nice bunch.
Yeah.
There isn't many knobheads about, is there?
There is a few.
There's a few.
They're not, you can move.
You can ignore them. Yeah.
But I just loved it. As soon as I went on my mum and stepdad's boat, I was just like, oh, I felt like I could come home, and I never feel at home. I don't feel I have a home particularly until I came on the canal, and I was like, oh my god, I'm home, but I can move all the time.
Best of both
So
worlds.
yeah, it's the best of both worlds. So and I think that's why you have a really close relationship with your boat, because that's the one constant thing, isn't it? It's the only constant thing in your life. So I don't know, it's like a really lovely pet.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of feeding sometimes.
Yeah, which does take a lot of
Yeah,
it.
there's always something wrong with them, isn't there?
It's like it's like the relationship that a cowboy would have with its horse. Or like a 70s kid has with their chopper bike. Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
I love that. So yeah, I think that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
And I did learn to drive eventually, but I learned to drive a boat before I learned to drive a car.
All right.
Well, I can't remember ever not doing art, ever.
Right.
And I think it's the only thing I've ever been good at. And I don't even think I'm that good, but it's just, I just feel like that's the only thing. I'm rubbish at maths, and I'm rubbish at logical thinking. So it's the only thing I've probably got, like, that I could do, that I was confident that I could do.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit weird because I've tried to give it up so many times. Talk about addictions. I'd love to give up art and become a scientist or something. Something pretty useful. But I've never been able to do it. And as soon as you stop doing it, I really have tried to give it up for months, and I've managed a few months, and I've been I'm never looking at paintbrush again. It's bad for me. And then as soon as you do that, you start getting a bit ill. You get
twitchy,
a bit sort of angular.
Yeah.
And a bit German expressionist. And so I've just thought, I'll just give it in, just do it. So yeah. Oh, thank you. I can't not do it really now.
What's your medium that you use?
Well, it depends really. I go through stages. So years ago I was an oil painter, and I really loved that. And then I think after that I got into doing sort of community arts and stuff. So I became a community artist for a bit and didn't really do my own work. And I started working on carnivals. So then I got really into sculpture, and I did loads of sculptures. And I got quite a bit of, I got a 6-month exhibition doing sculptures, and I did a bit of a tour and things. And I thought, oh, this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a sculptor. And then what happened after that? Oh, then I got a job as an art technician in a school, and got really into photography. So I became madly obsessed about photography, and like pinhole photography in particular. And people would give me things to make into cameras, like a train. I got given a train carriage.
Really?
Yeah.
Wowzers.
And I haven't got it. It was in this sort of museum that I just thought, can I come and take photographs of your old trains? And they were really inviting until they realised that I was really interested in the rust and the old the decrepitness of them, and they were trying to portray how their renovation.
Museum, yeah.
And so our things was I think they did appreciate my interest, but they didn't really appreciate what I was interested in.
Yeah.
So in the end they had a guard's wagon. They said, do you want this as a pinhole camera? I was like, yeah.
Wow,
So I did that for a bit, yeah. And I just I nearly got arrested doing pinhole photography because I made a big massive 6-foot by 4-foot camera, because a little camera wasn't good enough. I had to make everything into a camera. In fact, I've got a camera on my boat, and I just got really obsessed with it. So I had to make this 6 foot by 4 foot camera, and I did a project all about the woods because I was really obsessed with woods at the time as well. I get obsessed about things, and it's a trait.
Getting that feeling.
Yeah. And so I took this camera into the woods, and the next thing, and I'm inside the camera because the shutter is on the inside. And I'd like put all my like photographic paper at the back of the camera, and I was like crouched like this, doing the shutter. And my boyfriend at the time was outside the camera, and I could hear all these voices, and I was thinking, what's going on? And I could hear him sort of like getting a bit like, no, honestly, it is. And I was here listening to it, and actually I could see some of it going on the camera obscura in the back. And it was the police. They turned up because, or some, I think it was the police, or some sort of community like body, like maybe a PSO or whatever. But somebody had seen me taking this camera into the woods and thought I was fly tipping a refrigerator, fridge freezer. And he was trying to desperately explain that
you don't
I was inside, and it was a camera. And so I let him try to explain for a few minutes, and they were sounding really like, what the hell? And I just went, it is a camera, really? This little voice comes out. It is a camera, really?
It's a little camera gremlin idea.
Yeah, but I couldn't show them because I had all this photographic paper. It cost me a bloody fortune on the back.
So how would you do that then?
What?
How do you do pinhole?
Pinhole. All you need is a box and some photographic paper. That's it. It's like the easiest thing in the world, and you can do it in your boat, dead easy. It's ace. All you have to do with your boat is you black out all the windows, black out any light leaks that you can find, and then just make a tiny hole about that big, maybe even smaller, that big, in the blackout material. So if you've used like sugar paper, just make a tiny hole and then sit there and wait. And you have to do it on a sunny day, but then the whole world projects inside your boat. It is incredible. You'll never leave your boat. I've sat on the sunniest day in my bedroom for hours just watching like this film that's going on.
Oh wow.
It's an incredible experience, yeah. That's how all cameras work, yeah. It's the same as your eye. Your eyes are basically camera obscuras. So the light is let in through your pupil, and then, but what happens in a normal camera, is that you have a mirror that will reflect it back, because it'll be inside out and upside down, not inside out, the other way around and upside down. Yeah. So it takes you a minute to adjust. So like that day when I was in my bedroom being sad, like the road and the cars were going past on my ceiling. Yeah, it's so, and the sky is sort of open. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And when I've worked in schools and done it, the kids are all like, "Oh, miss, what we're doing is just shit," you know. And then they're like, I'm like, just be patient, just wait, let your eyes adjust. And then you send one of the kids outside or something, you know. And then they're like, fucking, like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Wow.
Like, how to like silence a whole like classroom of teenagers.
Wow.
Get a camera
That in
obscura
itself,
out.
that in itself is something.
Because they think you're just wasting their time, you know. And then they're like, oh my god, I can see a tree, I can see a bird, and because like it looks like it's all moving because it's a film basically. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh.
But in a camera,
we could do that
it'd be
in the
the
bedroom
mirror.
easy,
You should so do it. It's so good.
Yeah, never heard of that. Sounds ace.
It's bloody brilliant, honestly. And if you got like, do you know Canaletto? You know the artist Canaletto? He did loads of pictures of Venice. He did loads of really, really detailed paintings of Venice, and he used the camera obscura to do it. So he
so he was
right.
transfer it onto a wall and
then
he
just traced it. He just traced it, so he got all this detail. And there's quite a famous photographer, I can't remember his name now, he's that famous. He went back and found the places that he must have painted in, and he made camera obscuras. I've got a book, I'll show you. He made camera obscuras of those places, and it is beautiful, so beautiful.
So it's like a projector.
It's just a projector, yeah.
That is brilliant.
But it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I got obsessed about that. So the best
Understandably.
the best pinhole camera I've ever used is a beer can. They're the best because you get like the weird distortion of like the cylinder. Yeah, ace.
So basically, wherever you move your boat, that outside space would be in.
Yeah, the inside space. I love that inside outside, and I love like like photographing it with a digital camera, because it's like really traditional photographic technique. Camera obscura is the most. It's the most like basic, simplest, basic thing. But like you're doing it with you're photographing it, documenting it with a digital camera. It's ace. So for about 5 years I just made everything into a camera, everything I could find. Like literally.
Walking fridge.
And
just that.
It's just
brilliant.
Yeah, so then
that's a new obsession coming
so that
out,
was like the big time obsession.
One,
I was really obsessed with that. Then I went from working in this school. I got my degree this year, and then in photography, and then I got a job as teaching on I don't know how this happened, but I got a job teaching on a video game art course.
Right.
Bearing in mind the last video game I played was Tabletop Pac-Man in the 70s. And I was like, what the hell? But they advertised for somebody to teach drawing. So I was like, I can do that, it's easy. And then within a year I loved it and it was great, although all the kids just thought I was shit because I couldn't play video games. And part of my interview was playing a zombie game, which I spent most of the time just screaming. And the guy that interviewed me said, "You're the most unintuitive gamer I have ever met." Ever.
We're having you.
But I got a good portfolio, so I got the job. But so within a year I sort of had to learn like this whole thing, which is different. And my students were weird, they're lovely, I loved them to bits, but they were all socially inept, and I'm very, as you can see, chatty. So I probably bombarded them. They were all like, God, I can't stand this, just don't me.
Can't stand all this interaction.
Yeah, I used to have a student that had to actually spend my lesson in the library because I freaked him out so much. And then I'd just send him notes on what to do. But he'd come in for like a minute or two, and then he'd be like, and have to leave. And I'd just send him, "Miss, can you just tell me what to do?" I can't cope with this. You're too crazy.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I loved that, but I did that for a year, and then I don't know how this happened again, but everybody got made redundant, but me. So suddenly I was course leader for video game art, and I was like, how am I gonna blag this? And I managed to blag it for about 4 years, and then I was just like, this is crazy, I can't blag it anymore. And like you're expected to play games all the time so that you can learn about games. So but I couldn't do this at all. I could do that, but I couldn't do this. And so I used to have to just watch hours of gameplay, like PewDiePie and all these like sort of 12-year-old gamers that film their games.
That's awesome.
So it was just really crazy.
I'm completely the opposite to kind of what I see your art. You're interested in like the natural world.
Exactly. It was like so bizarre. I remember like the head of the college saying to me, because I did have a colleague at one after about a year of teaching this bloody course on my own, I had a colleague come in, and she sent me something for him one day, and I sent it back, and I said, "Oh, you want to send this to Chris?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, sorry. As soon as I see video games, I think of you." And I think you're the only person in the whole world that ever will say that. Because all my friends were like, "What the hell? What's gone on?" Like when I said I was teaching games, they thought I was teaching PE. They didn't realise I was teaching video games. Yeah, it was so bizarre. I just don't know how I got myself into that situation.
Brilliant.
I wasn't expecting that.
Especially winging it for 4 years.
Totally winging it. Yeah. But then, consequently, the reason I'm telling you that is because that's when I started getting into digital art, because I just had to leave behind I was teaching art and I was teaching drawing and sculpture, but I had to teach digital art, so I had to learn digital art. So I got really obsessed. Photography went out the window, and I got totally obsessed with digital art. Totally obsessed.
So what was that then? Photoshop?
Yeah, I was using Photoshop and a Wacom tablet, and God, and somebody said, one of my colleagues who had been a digital artist for a long time, he'd worked on like Batman, Lego games and everything. He was a really amazing artist and like actually worked in the industry, which I could never claim. He said, I used to paint people's eyes. I got obsessed about painting eyes, and if I'd met you I'd be like, can I paint your eye? and it would be like a bit dodgy, but I had that whole collection of digital eyes. And he seen me one day obsessed in my dinner hour painting this eye, and he was like, you know what, it's like you're just digitally wanking. He was like you're never going to make it in the industry. I was like, I don't want to make it in the industry. It's like if it takes you 6 hours to like paint an eye, like you're never going to make it, you know. I was just like, leave me alone. But they were I just got really into massive detail and stuff. Just obsessed with it, obsessed. So all my paintings then were digital paintings until recently when my computer broke.
Oh, really?
And I had to go back to oil painting.
Oh, wow.
So I've only just gone back to oil painting about 6 months ago, and I'm really struggling with it because obviously you can't blow it up that big, you know, like on Photoshop I can go as detailed as possible, so I've had to give up my obsession with detail.
Oh,
so
that's interesting. So
through lots of stages.
Yeah.
So you're adaptable.
You're adaptable.
Yeah, I am.
To the medium.
You've definitely.
Yeah, but I just have to do that just to create, I suppose. But yeah, so I do miss my things that I used to teach, because you sort of try and get students. Digital art, you can look really the same, and if you look at digital artists, it's harder to tell them apart because they're using the same brushes and things. So I try and get my students to create their own brushes to get that different, different style. Yeah.
I've actually thought of that.
Yeah.
So were you self-taught with the Wacom pad then?
Self-taught myself everything really.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of plays on the Wacom, and I'm just like, it just scares me.
Yeah. No, it clicks within a week. You're like amazing within a week. You never feel like you can get it, do you? I'm like teaching myself piano recording at the minute, and I'm having similar problems with that. And I'm just thinking, just keep doing it. Just keep. And people are like, you know, calling me PCA. I think just keep doing it. 15 minutes a day, and your brain will adjust, and it does. Because the kids would come in and you know they'd never picked up a Wacom in their life, and they'd all be like, oh, this is shit. And I'll be like, just keep with it, just keep playing, and they just click, and you're sorted. The human brain is amazing, isn't it? Really, it's just amazing. It's just that you've got to keep doing it and moving forward, and just doing it and making it look shit.
Just keep turning up.
Yeah, just keep turning up.
I think I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I let that get in the way.
I think humans are. That's what we're trying. That's what we're like that, aren't we? We hold ourselves back by trying to be the best, and actually we should just be the shittest.
Yeah,
and if we're the shittest,
not be afraid of being shit.
Yeah. I tell myself, I say this all the time, I'm just the same myself. I look at a painting and I'm like, oh god, shit, I'm not painting it ever again. Like these bloody long tail
Next
tips.
medium.
I hate long tail tips, I tell you. But
bastards.
Yeah, little fluffy bastards.
So what's your favourite medium then? Out of all of the ones you've
cycling. That's my favourite medium. I don't know really. I still really like the idea of photography really, but I think oil. Yeah, I've got to say oil paintings because that's what I'm doing now. I just have to be happy with what I've got. So I went back to do some digital because I did get my computer fixed. And I did do some digital painting afterwards, and I was just like, you know what, this is unsatisfying now.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I love the idea. I love process, and I love, like, I hate to say this wanky word, but like materiality. And I sort of like, now I've gone back to Wacom. It's like it's not got enough substance for me. Now.
I know what you mean.
Weirdly. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm very flexible and just adjust to whatever. You know, that's probably why I haven't had hot water for 8 years. You just adjust, don't you?
That's why you're stuck at it.
Yeah. So, oil painting. I'm really maybe. I'm really starting to like really appreciate the medium again. I used to love it years ago. I was obsessed with that as well.
Yeah.
But I did a project once with my best mate, and we got a bursary. I don't know how we get into these things, but we did get a bursary, and we got a studio as part of this bursary. So I was doing weird sculptures, and she knits weird sculptures. So we did this thing where we were Victorian botanists, but actually that was just a front, and we were doing all these experiments on these plants that we were making, and they were sort of half plants, half little creatures, and we dressed up as Victorians for about 6 months and just went to work dressed as Victorians. Nice. And she did this experiment on her foot. This is all in our heads. And she happened to, like, it went wrong, and she got a cloven hoof for foot. So part of her thing was that she had this cloven hoof underneath this long Victorian dress, and now and again she would
just reveal it.
Reveal it. So, and it was great. We had a mind reading machine whereby you sat there, you had to hold a fish. Because it was.
Is that one of those things you get out of a cracker?
No, I made a massive fish that they had to hold, and they were all like wired up, and I had this head thing. I've got a photo actually of some unsuspecting poor man, and then in the background we had somebody in this little booth that anything that he was thinking would come up, and it's usually ladies' underwear.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, weirdly enough. And so they'd be on little sticks, these little crazy things that would like shine lights like a puppet, a shadow puppet.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that was great fun.
That sounds good.
That sounds great. So how long have you been a floating trader then?
4 years, I think. I gave up teaching about 4 years ago. So this would have been my 4th year if I hadn't had a COVID lockdown last year. Yeah, so it's really my 3rd year, but it would have been 4th year. But I was selling online last year, so I'm still counting it.
Yeah. So we found as well that there's a few people we've spoken to that, like, COVID was like a catalyst for something. So how did COVID affect your trade?
Well, it made me sort my website out, so that was good because it was all a bit ad hoc before then, but I really relied on my website quite a lot, and I think it made me do more Instagram type stuff.
Yeah.
And it obviously took away the pressure
media.
of getting to places and trading at festivals and stuff. And this year I had this idea that I won't do any of the festivals because they all seemed a little bit still whether they're going to go ahead or not. So I thought, I'll just go do pop-ups. So that's what I've done this year, is done pop-ups, which has been in one way really good because it's made me realise that I can make money just doing pop-ups. But in another way, it's been a bit isolating.
Yeah.
And I've really missed the other traders.
Yeah,
I've missed
the social side.
that, yeah, because you end up, not all the time, but you end up pretty much travelling with the same people round a trading circuit, which was really nice. You get to know people really well.
Yeah.
And that's been lovely. And I obviously haven't had that. So I thought next year, because you're always thinking a year ahead, aren't you? Next year I'm going to definitely do a mixture of both. I'm going to do pop-ups and get in as many festivals as I can. But choose them wisely, because things. What
I
realised.
Boat festivals?
Yeah, like floating markets and things.
Yeah.
I realised that my work doesn't work in like music festivals because nobody wants to buy a painting and then take it to a music festival. Whereas things like food and clothing, that works brilliantly because people want to dress up to go. So I'm gonna be a bit more selective about what festivals I choose for my work. So, but yeah, I think that's what it made me reevaluate stuff. I think whether I've managed to make it any better, I don't know, but yeah, I think I had when the pop-ups weren't raining, I did better than I had done in pop-ups previously, so I think I probably marketed it better maybe. But yeah, so I think it did consolidate a lot of ideas more. But then,
Did those frames turn up then during COVID?
No.
You've been doing that
been
forever.
doing them for a couple of years now. Yeah.
They're awesome, aren't they?
Well, I quite like them.
Proper
Yeah, I quite like them. And the people like them. You know, that buy work. My work changed, I think, when those frames came along, because I was just using any old frames I could find, and then actually Wally's sister said to me, "I don't like those cheap frames you're using." And I was like, and she's quite good actually. She's good at being critical, but in a kind way and
constructive.
She's constructive. And I did think, she's right. They look shit. And so I started I know what happened. Me and my son went to Whitewick Manor, And I just seen like they've got like all this beautiful arts and crafts collection and Renaissance, not Renaissance stuff, pre-Raphaelite stuff, and a lot of those were done in these just wooden, very simple wooden frames. I was like, oh, that's really nice. I really like that. So I came back and my ex-partner, I told him what I wanted and he made it. But because of the nature of the wood we were using, they came out really odd and quirky. So they weren't like the White Wick Manor ones, but they became their own thing. Yeah. And so I just like, oh, love it. And it just started selling. So I was like, okay, carry that on.
Awesome.
Yeah, I really like them.
Really unique.
And I never know how they're going to turn out either. So they could be like really bad and fall apart.
Have you got glass in them then?
Yeah, I've got glass in them. So yeah. So the little ones I don't, the little tiny ones I just have them as like open. But the big ones and the medium ones all got glass in. So yeah, it just worked.
Yeah.
So I just went with it.
Especially with your work.
Yeah, I think because of that nature thing. Yeah. So yeah, so I was just stuck with that. But I'm sort of moving on soon, I think. I want to get into more gallery spaces, I think, again. I think since I've been doing oil paintings, I'm starting to think I want to keep Fern Floating Fine Art as it is, because that works in where I am, but I want to sort of move into
have another
doing something bigger and pot. But that's very much in the pipeline. I'm just sort of researching it at the minute. Yeah. To see where that goes. So then I probably won't do those.
You mean like proper gallery spaces?
Yeah. But I don't really know what yet. It's just me. Have to move on every
5 years.
I'm accomplished in that. I need to do something else.
Yeah. And I'm so much better in limitations. You know, it's like if I've got too much, I can't cope. I love having limited time, limited resources. That's why Pinhole. Like I loved Pinhole because you had a box and the outside world, and that was it. And then you just made the best of that, and I like that. I think you need limitations to be creative.
Yeah,
and
it gives you a focus, doesn't it?
Yeah. When I taught photography, it's great. I mean, I love kids. I love teaching teenagers. I think they're like the most bonkers people I've ever met. They're great. You can go into work feeling absolutely so depressed, and they'll say one stupid thing, and your whole life changes. They are so ace. But I've taught adults, and they're obsessed with like stuff. The amount of times I got asked what lenses to buy, and if it was like, what lens is going to be better than that lens? I was like, I don't care, I don't know. I'm a pinhole photographer, I've never used a lens in my life. And they'd think I was a shit teacher because I didn't know what lens they should buy. You know, whereas kids will just, they'll go with what, you know.
What they've got.
They'll be a bit like reticent at first, but you can totally talk them around. Just be enthusiastic and talk them into, you know, into going for it. And they're probably like the most scared people on earth. But if you can open them up, they're well up for doing crazy stuff.
More of a sponge.
Yeah, whereas adults think that you can throw money at stuff and you'll be a brilliant photographer.
It's very true.
But you're not a brilliant photographer. You'd be a brilliant photographer with a beer can, but not with like a $5,000 SLR. You could be shit photographer still. Yeah, that's great. So it is like we said earlier, it's just showing up, isn't it, and doing it.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Because, and not being frightened of the failure. I think that's it's partly why I think I've gone back to the farm, because I thought I know that I can earn my money, my basic money there, and everything else is just me being creative. You know, it's like I've sorted that bit out. And I really like being at the farm. They're the only people that understand my sense of humour. It's great. And so, it's just lovely. And then I can just be an artist as well. Whether when you're putting it all into one basket, I'm not very good with that. I have to be. I like to do. I'm not saying farm's a shit job, because it's not. It's lovely, but I don't have to think about it.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like when I was teaching, that took all my creativity and my energy, and it's exhausting. You never stop, you never feel like you're doing a good enough job, so that was too much. Whereas if I do a job that I can leave behind,
you've still got time to create your own work, haven't you?
It gives me sort of more freedom having a job, I think.
No,
it's some freedom in structure, I think.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really realise, I don't think, until probably lockdown. That might be another thing, yeah. Because I always thought the more time I have, the better an artist I'm going to be. But actually, it's not necessarily true, because you just waste more time. Like instead of sitting down to oil paint, I'd go swimming or go cycling or wash up or do anything that I could.
Yeah, do anything, but
when you've only got a limited amount of time, I think you use it better.
Yeah.
No.
That's the scary thing, isn't it, about our modern world, that we're not encouraged to be human. Like, our humanness has been taken away. It's like we're animals that aren't supposed to be animals.
Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's it, caged hens?
Yeah, basically everything's set against our being human, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so unnatural what we do.
It's the last thing society needs is for us to be human.
Yeah, exactly, because
this
society, as we know it, would be destroyed by if we all did what we're doing, what we really want to do.
Yeah.
It'd be chaos.
Yeah,
Can't wait for the day.
Yeah.
About revolutions and stuff.
That's why we're reviled, though, isn't it? That's why people like, Roman Egyptians are reviled, because they don't.
Yeah,
they're not part of that. So, what do? You think, oh, okay? Do you look at their lifestyle and think that works, it's right, or do you look at it and go, no, they're really, they're against society. So then you turn society against those particular people or whatever, or hippies or New Age travellers or whatever. And make it so that they're bad, and that's what society does, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody that doesn't fit that mould is lazy or something, or exactly.
Car on the
if you're not adding to society or to commercialism, then you're wrong.
And that's the key part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Commercialism.
Yeah.
If you're not buying
shocking,
shit that you don't need to
if you're not buying a fridge freezer every 3 years, then you're not actually participating properly. When I was thinking about giving up teaching, although to be fair, as soon as I started teaching, I was thinking about giving up teaching. But
stuck at it for 5 years.
Yeah, I was thinking, this is like, I've never had a proper job. I'd always been like a community artist, or always sort of winged it. My whole life I winged it, and then I've got this proper job because I had a degree, and that's what you do. And then as soon as I got in there, I was like, what the hell? What am I doing? What have I done? But I did this business course, this art business course, and one of the most profound things it got me to do was write down, if your idea of, in this case being an artist, fails, what's the worst case scenario? If it succeeds, what's the scenario? And if you stay the same, what's the scenario? And literally the difference between failing and succeeding was money. That was it.
Yeah.
Because
the only difference.
That was the only difference. So, I'd have, one of the things I wrote down was I'd have time to paint and time to, research things and enjoy nature, which was exactly the same as if I succeeded. But the one that was terrifying was if things stayed the same. So I was travelling at the time, I still was like travelling the system, but I was going to Birmingham every day. And I was on the M6 most of the time, not all the time depending where I was living, but I was on the M6 an awful lot, and I was always stuck in traffic. And I worked out that if I carried on teaching till I was 68, which is when you're supposed to retire, isn't it? Teaching video games at 68. Jesus. I mean, come on.
Having played
Can you imagine? They don't listen to me as like a 48-year-old. They're not going to listen to me as a 68-year-old. So I thought, I think I worked out that I'd have spent something ridiculous, like 45,000 hours stuck in traffic. Because I was often in traffic jams for 2 hours a day. And if I wasn't in traffic jams, it still took me an hour and a half to get to work every day and an hour and a half back. I thought, that is terrifying.
That's a lot of
I've
time,
given up that
innit?
much time to being stuck in traffic.
For what? For, like you said, money.
For money, yeah.
The only difference is money.
For a secure job, which wasn't really secure because one, there was always redundancies, two, I was always about to leave,
found out.
three, I was always about to jump, they're going to find out that I can't, do it. I'd have to get the kids, we'd use these massive, screen, these massive tellies. I haven't had a telly for at least 25 years. I'd have to get the kids to turn telly on. And they'd be like, Miss, you're going to learn to turn this telly on. It's like, why do I need to learn to do? I'm learning to do art. I don't need to learn to turn telly on. That's what you're for. Get it switched on now.
Crack on.
Yeah, and they just have to do everything for me like that. It was crazy, but yeah, they're brilliant at that. They know how to use a remote control. What the hell? what the hell's that about? Why is there so many buttons? They'd have to do all that for me. But then now, like Theon, my son, he was very much sort of like wanted what other kids had, and he didn't have those things. But we'd go travelling all the time. We'd be in Italy 3 times a year, or we'd always be on the move, usually up here, messing about and stuff. And now he looks back and he says, like, a lot of his friends, they had all that. They had PS3s or whatever they were at the time and stuff, but they didn't. He said, I've got so much more life experience. And it's took him to these 27 to look back and think, oh, okay, you were right. But the battles we had at the time.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
You know, I mean, I think he saved up in the end for his own computer console, and he was about 15. And then he just became like this zombie for like years.
Yeah.
Because he suddenly went from being a really interesting person to being like, I'm being really angry.
But I think you'll probably find again, when he gets a bit older again, the midlife crisis at 40.
Yeah.
He'd really appreciate what he
had. Thanks so much.
Yeah, well, he is now. He does say now, like, you know, I talk to my friends about stuff and they have they don't have that because they spent so much time on computer games or TV or whatever.
Yeah, you're obsessed with them, aren't you?
I love magpies as well.
Yeah, awesome birds.
Yeah. I love that. I just love how much folklore surrounds them and how like reviled they are.
Yeah.
That is so weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, like how
such an intelligent bird.
I just didn't get it. Yeah, they're terrified of it because it is so intelligent.
Yeah.
And my first magpie picture, which is about the devil's blood. Did you know that folklore where they used to believe that because the magpie is so good at imitating, and that the way they it sounded like a human speech, and they believed that the magpie's tongue contains a drop of the devil's blood, and if you remove that drop of blood, they will talk as a human. And I love that. But I mean, it's so dark, isn't it? Everything about magpie folklore is dark. Which is bizarre. Whereas in the East, they revere magpies as good luck. But for some reason,
not here.
In Western culture, we think that they're like bad luck. I mean, they get married under magpie wings in Eastern countries. Yeah, really good luck. They have all this like display of which is probably not very
not very good for the magpies.
Not very good for the magpies. Bad luck for them. But just that idea that they're really good luck is sort of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
My daughter still salutes magpies.
I do.
It's weird.
No,
it's so weird.
On the bike, I'm like, it's like,
no wonder you fall off your bike.
I'm still obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Why is it that we're so superstitious? That fascinates me.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. I was brought up in a very superstitious household, and I love it, but I'm not superstitious at all. And my mum's not, but my gran was ridiculously superstitious. I spent half my life holding my collar until I seen a black dog.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah, and if you see anything like a hearse or an ambulance, hold your collar until you see a black dog.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
I spent most of my life holding my collar, and like I'd be sometimes doing it for hours, and then I'd be like, "Oh no, let me know," and she's like, "All right, as long as you turn around 3 times and spit." I thought, thank God, turn around 3 times and spit. But she'd only do that after like maybe 2 hours. She was mad. And I loved it. I love it now. You know, looking back, I think she was bonkers. Never use scissors on a Friday, or go to hairdressers, or use a pin on a needle on a Friday. No way.
Crikey.
Yeah. And I'm really glad for all those crazy things that she used to say to me, because it's all fed into my work now. I love hearing. I was in the post office yesterday, and there was this woman telling this man about. My uncle drowned in the creek at there's a big massive country manor house down near here, in the creek at Coob, and I was like, my ear suddenly went, and I was just like, I was in the queue for post office, and the woman was like, excuse me, and I'm like, oh sorry, this is
it's just a bit nosy.
Like any sort of little, like, you know, like local tales or
like folklore stuff.
God, fascinating. Yeah, together. So I just got here for lockdown, and there was loads of goldfinches, and 2, the May had just come out, and you know, I was talking about how superstitious my nan was.
Yeah.
My nan wouldn't let you take your vest off until the Mayflowers were out. So, and I remember her telling me, I know, oh my God, I need counselling. I remember her telling me as well that you couldn't touch a hawthorn tree because if you did, if you broke a hawthorn tree, there's a witch that lived inside the tree and she would kill you. She'd haunt you, basically. Have you heard of that? Yeah. So, and I think where it comes from is the way they're wizened trees, aren't they? So they obviously were a bit like in silhouette, they're quite scary, like old witches. So that was like, oh, if you touch, and you could never have you could never make anything out of a hawthorn because it had some sort of evilness about it. Like you never make a baby's cradle out of a hawthorn tree, out of hawthorn wood, and all this. So when the May started appearing here, obviously I love it because of all this crazy folklore that goes on, and we've got loads of like blackthorn and hawthorn trees just here. So I started just painting them anyway and started researching them at the same time, and I found out that it wasn't just my nan that was bonkers. It was like everybody was a bit weird about hawthorn trees, and one of the things that I found was that one of the superstitions is never bring the Mayflowers into your house because it's like somebody will die in your house if you bring them in. And recent research has found that there's a smell that the hawthorn flower gives off, the Mayflower gives off, that's the same chemical as what's released from rotting human bodies.
Ah, right.
And so so it goes sort of back to the plague years where there's lots of rotting bodies, and it's like so it's like this sort of weird sort of after memory of that or something. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. That piqued my interest straight away. And then we had loads of goldfinches last year, didn't we? There's loads of goldfinches, and so I started painting goldfinches as well at the same time. And they're a symbol of resurrection for Renaissance paintings. So there's 455 paintings, this is what Geek am, Renaissance paintings, all with baby Jesus holding a goldfinch.
Oh, right.
And it's a symbol of his future resurrection. So I thought, oh my God, and it sort of started to come together because like the plague and Mayflowers that were happening at the time as well, and then our future resurrection, hopefully. It all sort of come together. So then I started looking into like using gold in the paintings because of the Renaissance, and I love Catholic iconography anyway. I'm like a bit obsessed with that. So it all sort of come together, and it was just I love it when a painting does that. Yeah. Because it's just it doesn't
like
happen very often.
It's deep rooted.
Yeah,
as well.
That's it. It's deep rooted in my crazy superstitious gran, but it's also deep rooted in, you know, like the environment that I'm living in right at that time. So every painting I try and use whatever's flowering or in season as well. So I try and have it so that it's like a symbol of that season or that
time.
It's
almost like your photography, isn't it? You're
capturing I suppose
a moment
so. Yeah.
of that time.
The downside of that is that long-tailed tits are long gone and I'm still painting them.
And they're doing you ready.
So yeah. But my next project is based on swallows, because there's lots of swallows. By the time I get around to painting it, they're gone. But there's loads of swallows around here, so I thought I've wanted to do swallows for ages. And then I had a lady that bought some stuff off me at a maker's market, and she was like, do you ever do swallows? And I was like, actually, I really want to do swallows, but I've never got around to doing it. So I said, all right, I'm going to start doing it. And I'm basing them on sailor tattoos, because I love all that.
Oh,
that's
I saw
a whole new
you've
thing.
been to rugby music.
Yes, I've been started
yeah.
doing my drawings for it. Yeah, so but apparently swallows are really symbolic in sailor tattoos. So it means like you've done 5,000 nautical miles.
Oh, is that what it is?
So and then if you come back do another 5,000, you get another swallow. And it's also swallows always return. So if you have it there, that symbolises that you will come home from that voyage.
Oh, wow.
I love all that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I also love folk art. So, and I love those old tattoo style. That sort of they're simple, aren't they?
Yeah, but almost naive.
Very naive art, yeah. And I love all that.
Yeah.
So, I love the fact that somebody holds a story on their body. That they're so committed to their own story that they're prepared to like have it tattooed into them. I love all that. So I think there's nothing more beautiful than an old tattooed woman.
Yeah.
There's some awesome photographs of
there's sort of
older
Victorian
ladies.
tattooed
where
women
it's
from
like
circuses
cut
and
off.
stuff.
They look amazing.
And then everything else is, oh, can I have
crazy.
another?
Oh, hello. Hello. I know you. You're Sarah, aren't you? Hello. I do recognise you now. How are you? Yeah. This is my second one. I've got a little fatty there. I just don't know what to do with him. I might have to repaint him. He's not quite, and he's got a mean face.
That's cute.
Stares at me a lot.
That's
that one.
oil.
Yeah. Yeah. Nearly.
Beautiful.
This is all my mistakes in here. This is where I work out my mistakes through the medium of sketchbooking and regesso them, because it's just another delay. You know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just need
Very familiar with
delay.
that. Very familiar with that.
So I think the sketchbook is just basically a huge delaying tactic.
I really like these.
I really I just quite like to do portraits of birds. I don't really want to do the rest of the body.
You're awesome. You can tell you've studied eyes for a long time.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with
You're
them.
brilliant at eyes.
Oh, actually, I should have shown. Yeah, Sarah was on about seeing all the Romany stuff, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I should have just shown her that. Why didn't I show that? I'm an idiot. Yeah.
These are cushions. as
Yeah, these are the ones that I got first. So there's horrible material because I was just testing out what the printing was like. But I now do proper velvet ones, but I can't afford them.
well. Yeah, velvet.
They're pretty good though, aren't they?
They're
The
good
prints.
printing, yeah, good printing.